All right, this is what I wanted to highlight. Just going to be brief. So we talked about this morning. This is the Nasdaq over here. Sharing this screen over here. And it's this 11,600 area that seemed like where the market just wanted to test. It's the same level in Amazon, 3221. Traded that around pretty well today a couple times. Not a huge range, but there was a couple good cycles. So when we sold off, I sold some 3150, 3100 strike puts. So I was just kind of eyeballing this whole area right here. And then when we rallied back, I covered it and we came back down, I shorted it again. And then on the upside, I had this morning when we came up on the highs, I sold 3250 calls. And then when we pulled back, I covered those. So that's kind of the way I'll trade the narrower range, is just within the bigger move. Like the bigger picture moves is what we were doing on, was that not even 2 weeks ago, Monday, when we were getting long down here at 2,900. So this is what I would tell you guys. I was thinking about this today too, is that the beginning part of the month, especially the first part of a quarter, like earlier in the week, I wasn't really that involved. I just wasn't paying attention. The market wasn't moving. I wanted to see how we start October, because how you start a month, especially in equities and on a quarterly level, all the rotation and all the big funds, if they had a down September, which they did, and then they have new money to put to work, and you have a cycle that's low, like coming into this week, you're going to get stocks that start to benefit from that flow. And that flow can go on all month, especially if there were certain sectors that had a weak September. So I'm going to leave some of those names for the options group, but I identified a big one that I want to keep an eye on that moved a lot today, and it has a really nice setup. And I think that could run for several weeks, at least with the cycle, or maybe even the whole month. Because when these guys come in and buying, and the big funds are buying the stuff that's been performing well, so anything that has to do with the internet economy, all the vaccine stuff, the Zooms of the world, the Shopify's, all that's going to continue to see flow. And then obviously there's going to be a lot of flow out of other parts of the economy, the smaller mid-cap stuff, which is why we like to be short the Russell. And then, there's times where the airlines are going to be experiencing massive outflows. So at the beginning of the month is when it gets exciting and interesting, but you want to pay attention to some of that stuff. So there's already been a good amount of buying from Amazon and some of the well-known tech names already. And so some of the smaller ones I think might benefit if we continue to rally. But also what I wanted to talk about was on this screen over here. So this is the spread between Amazon and Tesla. And so we like to do these pairs trades. So we're trading, a lot of you are trading S&P's long, short the Russell, or Nasdaq long, short the Russell. Playing Amazon long, short BABA, playing Amazon long, short Tesla. Tesla and Amazon are completely linked as far as like companies. A lot of times I like to find the stories that we've talked about when you had, for a long time you had Apple doing what it was doing, you had BlackBerry on the decline because Apple's taken market share from. Same thing you can do with countries. China had outflows in the first quarter with all the Chinese, everything to do with the virus coming out of China first. All the money flow came out of China first, and then it started going into certain pockets of the US. So there's pairs trades there too you can do on a global macro level. But the Tesla Nasdaq trade or Tesla Amazon trade isn't so much Amazon's taking business from Tesla. It's just the fact that those two are highly well known. They're both high beta, but they do pretty much have a 80% correlation. So I just like the fact that one's completely differently overvalued and owned and just a bubble territory versus Amazon's, and it's not anywhere close to that same sort of situation. So the spread, if we look on Zoom, this is the 30-minute. So it's been kind of sticking its head out all week relative to Amazon, but you can notice the spread. We talked about it this morning, and I just wanted to keep highlighting it. Each time that Tesla really starts to kind of narrow that spread to Amazon and it actually performs better, or like what I keep saying, sticks its head out, this spread here is pretty wide. This was a sell on Tesla, and then you had the drop, right? Tesla's the pink line. Here, the drop, all right? And then you can see the spread between Amazon and Tesla here. Tesla was really overdone. I always talk about the way something gets to a certain level matters, the speed, the distance, the angle, the acceleration, the angle and distance that's created. And then it's cycled back the other way where it overshoots on the up. That was a sale. And then this is why I was saying that Monday when we were buying Amazon on the lows, that's why I like that trade so much, how aggressive it was, just because this was a lot of that battery day bullshit that people were waiting on. It was kind of keeping this up. Meanwhile, the rest of the market was down. So to pay attention to these spreads is really helpful, right? Because you're going to see times where every time that the Russell is outperforming the Nasdaq, you want to start thinking about shorting that, especially when we're at the range on the Russell. When you're at the Russell on its range relative to itself, you're at the top of the range, and then it's still pushing and the rest of the market's sideways, or Apple was not even catching a bid, or Amazon's down, or Nasdaq's down, and then the Russell is still sticking out. Those are opportunities just to hit those particular plays even more. And then usually you get the other one to correct harder, which has been happening on the Russell a lot. Kind of time consuming for me to bring that up and show you guys, but I think you get the point. And then if you look at, here's what I was noticing on the daily, but let's look at the hourly, I guess, first. So there was a couple times where this was when Tesla was down hard and Amazon was basing, and then they both rallied together. But this just shows you how far and how quick Tesla caught up, and then was, again, its spread is outperforming relative to itself on this chart. And then Amazon here again is showing you where there was a huge spread. The opportunity was to buy Amazon. If you were short here, great, you could add, but play that discrepancy. And so now the spread's pretty wide again. But even on the longer term, you can see on the daily that this has only happened 3 or 4 times. Here's Tesla sticking out, right? And then you got the move down, right? Tesla crashed. And then it did it again here into the split, crashed. And so Tesla got above on the daily again here, and we had to move down, I guess, 2 weeks ago, or was that last week? And now you're back at levels again where it's just the spread is widened out to the point where you want to be a seller of Tesla. Meanwhile, we're still long, right, from 2 weeks ago Monday, off these lows down around 2,900. So we continue to just add and reduce on the long side of Amazon. But I mean, I'm grossed up short 500 to 600 delta right now on Tesla. And at one point today, I was only long 50 on Amazon. So Amazon's 7 to 8 times more expensive than Tesla. Tesla has more beta though, right? Amazon's up 1.5% today. Tesla's up 4.5%. Tesla is going to have more volatility, but Amazon's 7 times more expensive. So 7-to-1 ratio is probably something you keep in your mind, even though Tesla will have more volatility. As you can see, I'm at kind of 10-to-1 right now, so I'm lighter on Amazon. I'm feeding more into the Tesla short. And part of the reason I'm as light as I am on the Nasdaq is I just want to see if we can get through this resistance or not. If we come in tomorrow and we're kind of well through it, and it looks like, I mean, directionally the wall from this daily chart, I'm going to switch back over. We're about halfway up the move from the correction from September, October, right? So you guys know the wall concept here is we're right there. So I'm okay going home a little bit more risk off, a little bit more net short, and see if in fact we kind of fail out here, and then it's gonna be a nice trade on the downside. And here's you got your daily cycle on the Nasdaq is, I mean, it's there for this later this week. If we get through there and it starts to look like maybe we're gonna go back and retest the highs, then I'm gonna have to I'll just be more aggressive on my dips, either on the Nasdaq, probably both the Nasdaq, whether it's calls or futures, or then just getting more aggressive back on the long side of Amazon. So I'm willing to take a little bit more out of the money, you know, red here on Tesla, even if, I mean, we could even go back to 500. So you're going to have to trade that and be aware that that's possible. But I think you're getting to that point again where it's going to pay to be on the short side. And then the other names are like some other tech names I was talking about getting long here into the beginning of the month is important. We can talk about some of those tomorrow in the room. So anyway, guys, I would just encourage you, I mean, especially if some of you are on the options team, or you want to be on the options team, just taking advantage of a couple of those simple things, like realizing how Amazon's down back to the bands. We've had a good cycle down. Like, this is the place to be buying. And believe me, there was a lot of people, and especially the old wall, they get so busy getting gross long the highs, then they have to puke into the lows. They get shoulder tapped. They got to take down their risk exposure, and then they get below the 50-day, and everybody's starting to get bearish, and all you do is hold the band. So we're getting long here into the lows. It was a great call, but it's tough for anybody that wants to trade that in a Robinhood account with just shares. I mean, you're not going to do much. But when you learn to trade the options, I mean, getting long that afternoon, that morning we did $30,000 day, and I think I did about 17 or 18,000 on it. It was all Amazon. So here we are 300 points off the low. I mean, if you just, with 10 grand, you could control 100 shares with the right spreads. That's a $30,000 trade. It's 10 times your money in not even 2 weeks' time, just on a simple core position. And then we've been trading around it intraday too. So selling puts when we sell off, and then you buy a little bit, you come out of your calls, you can sell upside calls against the core position, and you just add and reduce, but you get involved in these active sequences, and that's how you want to trade these moves. You don't need to have a huge move, but you can control and play and participate in Amazon, which is probably, I would argue, the #1 stock on the planet as far as people want to own it, they need to own it. Everything with the virus, etc. I mean, it's just going to be a great long idea. You could do it on the Nasdaq, you could do it on the Qs. What else was I going to say about that? So if you guys want to do that, coming into October, I mean, this is going to be the time where you can get in, put some of these trades on. I mean, you put $2,000, $5,000 into some of these plays that run for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, we've had $15,000 days on some of those plays. Just one play can put out 10, 15, 20 grand. You start to put a couple of those together, and that's how you can have a nice quarter. you guys can start to make some headway on some of your accounts. So if you want to do that, go to, let's see, go to jenkinscm.com. And just go to memberships. I'm bringing back this crypto memberships too. I'm gonna start a new room. It's a lot of work though, so I'm not gonna just include it in the cycle edge because it's a completely whole nother. It's just a lot for me that I gotta do. So anyway, the options edge right here. This is where all the bigger gains have been happening in the markets lately. Especially you want to start selling volatility, you want to start buying volatility as we come into October, November. We talked about today, there's a good chance that this VIX off this 25 level could really rally. But the options team, so you guys are going to have access to like these names and these watch lists that I'm talking about, especially focused around the beginning of the month. When we get to levels we like on Amazon and we're putting together these pairs trades, I'm going to kind of walk you through them, and you're going to give you a heads up on how to trade them. But I mean, these are screenshots from some of our guys. This was, I think, the first quarter when we were on the short side. That's like $5,000 days. Some of them were putting together $8,500 months. $10,000 a day, $9,000 a day. You guys can do this. It's just, you got to learn those options plays, just simple strategies, and then you got to get used to kind of working them and what contract, the right strikes and months. But the ratio back spread is what I used on that Amazon trade. So you hardly ever hear that anywhere. I mean, you listen to the Chicago guys, what's their names? Like the fast money guys and all those guys. They're always just doing vertical spreads and nothing really fancy, but that's a pretty unique one that nobody else is going to teach you. Talking about writing calls, like I'm writing these calls against your core position. It's just a great way to, even when the market goes sideways, like we're pretty much going sideways for a week and a half. And in September, and I was just selling upside calls that would expire. Next week, come in, sell the upside calls that would expire. You can do the same thing with the puts on the downside. Because if I know that we're not through resistance, I can sell that resistance. And I know if I want to get more long towards the bands, and I sell the puts. If all we do is go sideways, you're going to make money while your core position is just sitting there. And if you're running a core position in options, you are going to lose that theta on whatever you're using to stay long. So you have to be a little bit more active on selling premium, whether it's calls or whether it's puts. Anyways, this is great value. I'll still give you all these other courses, the Forex, the Pi Cycle, Cycle Edge Access. It comes to about $6,000 versus value, and I've been running that at 50% discount. Except for last month when some of you guys took advantage of that whole package I did, and I was giving away the options and the prop stuff for, I think it was $1,500. So anyway, guys, you can sign up there. But again, I would do that here in October because this is where you're going to see some of these names take off. And if they get the flow for the entire month, especially into earnings, you can be short the Russell instead of just sitting there and only having one side of the market on. You can be pulling out 50%, 100%, 150%, 300% gains on some of these other names that are the benefits of getting that flow. So, yeah, Alex, for sure you do. I thought I had you in that program. So anyway, guys, I just kind of mostly wanted to test this. I'm not going to, well, I don't know. I really want to kind of grow the community because I want some new blood in. There's a lot of people that are looking, a lot of people are, trying to trade this market or just looking for different ways to have extra income. And I don't really have a marketing team that's doing that, so we'll try to run the live rooms in addition to some live streaming. I used to put the Periscope on after too, kind of do a recap of our day. What's up, Jason? Do I think the market pulls back the first weeks of October? I think I said this morning with our group that sometimes the first of the month will get a lot of flow and it's kind of a head fake. Like they bid it up and then we'll see if you get the seasonality. I mean, October can be a really rough month. A lot of crashes happen in October. But we don't really need to know whether or not that's going to happen. I mean, the better way to think about it is as a cycle. So when I look at a 4-hour cycle, this is what I was kind of trading into the close today on Tesla. If you guys are on the Zoom, you can see that. I'll switch back over. So Tesla's 4-hour cycle's high. And then you look at the daily. I talked about it the end of last week, coming into the beginning of this week, that this cycle was low before the weekend and we were going to have to deal with that the first part of the week. So that's the right call. So it's simple as that sometimes on an oscillating cyclical rhythm that we've just rallied. I mean, tech's just been firm, slowly marching its way up, but then you're coming into the top of the cycle now into the end of the week. So also you have month end. They like to bid it up. Today's the first day. You can get 1 to 2 to 3 days at the beginning of the month though, and then the rubber's going to meet the road. I mean, you're going to have Tesla back at levels where the market topped. So the day that they had the split was the top of the market. So that's a name that does have a lot of marking timing. So you follow that one. Amazon, these levels I talked about here, 11,600 is 50% of the 50% retrace of the move down. So a lot of times markets will rally, fail there, make a lower high, and then if that's the case, the pivots from last week is the key levels on the down. My mouse battery just crapped out. I saw it blinking earlier. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Then you can see the daily cycle here too is high. So it's the same thinking. So we'll see. We could continue back to the highs from August. And maybe if that's the case, maybe you double top and then you get a big reversal in the end of, the middle of October to the end of the month. That's certainly possible. But I just kind of want to time up. That's why I was fading the Russell a little bit. Like I wasn't shorting it beginning of the week, a little bit, but I was mostly staying more net long like Amazon and stuff like that. And then as you come back into later in the cycle, now is the opportunity you can start to fade things that you like I was fading Tesla more now. We're fading the Russell today. I started buying the VIX a little bit today. So I don't know if that makes sense. Got it back. I just wanted to see maybe where this weekly was. Weekly cycle is down. I think the monthly we talked about those. This is an important cycle on this monthly level. That monthly cycle plays out, that sets you up for a type of move that we had in February, March. I think it's going to be the same kind of story where the stuff that's traded well can push higher, but you're going to start to see a lot of lower highs in the stuff that we don't like. I mean, take a look at, I already kind of touched on the Russell. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's making lower highs today. Then even if you look at oil, oil got absolutely smoked today. It looks horrible. Like it came off, tried to bounce, failed at the 50% retrace, and then just had a horrible day today. And this chart looks heavy. If oil starts to break down, risk off. If the dollar starts to break down, or sorry, break up, euro starts to break up, dollar starts to break up, euro starts to break down. So it's still mixed. You're gonna catch the underside of the 50-day maybe. All this old support, 117, 117 and a half. If we start to come back down, that's going to be another sign that I just talked about. Maybe tech starts to come off, oil starts to trade lower. That's what we want to see happen. But we're still a little bit in no man's land. It's not really clear just yet if we're going to get the bigger move down as far as risk. Oh. Well, anyways, we've been getting into some crypto tomorrow. All right, Jason, you're welcome in. All right, guys, well, it sounds like this worked pretty good. I'm gonna try to see if, after I end it, I'll listen to the audio and see if there's anything else I can make better. It's probably good for now, though. It's a little bit easier for me to communicate. How's this messed up? All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. See some of you in the morning. All right, later.